My name is Joyce. Sitting at this cafe, watching my parents across the table with their pale faces, wrinkled clothes, and desperate eyes, I can't help but recall the long and arduous journey that has led me to this moment. It all started when my husband, Mark, passed away unexpectedly. Our son, Ethan, was in the ICU, fighting for his life. I was broken, both emotionally and physically. I called my parents, hoping for some comfort, some support. But what I got was a cold and heartless response. My mother, Linda, who has always been overly concerned with appearances and the so-called family harmony, sighed and said, "But it's your sister Lily's promotion party. Don't make everything about you." My father, David, a man who has always been more interested in his own social status than his family, chimed in, "We'll call you later. Don't be so dramatic." There was a long silence on the phone. No tears, no concern. It was as if they didn't even care about my pain. While I was sitting in the hospital waiting room, holding Mark's wedding band so tightly that it cut into my palm, they were at Lily's party, celebrating, taking pictures, and posting about family love on social media. I was filled with a sense of numbness. I didn't scream, I didn't beg. Instead, I made a silent vow deep in my heart. I knew that this was not the end, but the beginning of a battle. A week later, they showed up at my door. They didn't bring flowers or apologies. Instead, they stretched out their hands, demanding 50% of the insurance settlement. My father, in his expensive business suit, and my mother, wearing her diamond necklace, stood on my porch as if they owned the place. My mother said, in a matter-of-fact tone, "The insurance settlement. 50% for us, 30% for your sister. That leaves you with enough." Enough? How could it be enough after losing my husband and watching my son struggle for life? I stared at them, and I could see that they were only interested in the money. They didn't even look at the family photos on the wall or the black mourning clothes hanging on the rack. My father puffed up his chest and said, "Joyce, don't make this ugly. We've supported you all these years. Now it's your turn to give back. Don't be selfish." Supported? I had been working 3 jobs since I was 20 to help them pay off their debts. I paid for Lily's fashion courses when she decided to pursue a career in the fashion industry. I had been their pillar of support, but now, they saw me as a cash cow. I looked my mother straight in the eye and said, "You came to take money at my husband's grave. You'll leave with nothing." My mother sneered, "You think you can cut us off, Joyce? Families don't work that way. We'll get what's ours, one way or another." I knew then that they were not only greedy but also dangerous. I slowly shut the door and locked it as their angry voices rose outside. They had declared war, but this time I had nothing left to lose. The next morning, the phone started ringing. Blocked numbers, unknown callers. One time, I picked up, and it was Lily's voice. "Joyce, just sign over Mom and Dad's share. It's what Mark would have wanted. Don't make this harder." I almost laughed. Mark had spent his last years begging me to cut off this toxic family. Then, Lily lowered her voice and said, "If you give us the money quietly, I'll make sure no one finds out about the other account." My blood ran cold. "What account?" I asked, but she hung up. That question burned in my mind all day. That night, I started rummaging through old papers and logins. After hours of searching, I found it. A savings account that Mark had set up years ago, with my name added secretly. There was nearly $120,000 in it. He had known that my family would come after me one day, and he had left me a shield. I whispered to his photo, "I'll use this wisely. I promise." The next day, they came again with a lawyer's letter. They were suing me for breach of family obligation and withholding joint assets. I was shocked and scared, but then I thought about Mark and Ethan. I knew I had to fight back. 2 days later, I walked into a lawyer's office. The receptionist guessed it was a family dispute when she saw the envelope in my hand. Inside, I poured out my heart to the lawyer, "Mr. Thompson. I told him about the threats, the lawsuit, and Lily's mysterious phone call. Mr. Thompson leaned back in his chair and said, Joyce, there's no such thing as a family obligation in the way they described. They don't have a legal leg to stand on. I felt a wave of relief, but he also warned me that they might try to smear my name. I was prepared. I slid over a folder I had prepared the night before. It contained bank transfers, texts where they admitted using my money for Lily's fashion shows, and receipts for the mortgage payments I made on their house. Mr. Thompson flipped through them and whistled, You've basically funded their lives for over a decade. I said flatly, and now they want to destroy mine. Mr. Thompson tapped the desk and said, We won't just defend. We'll counter. Fraud, misuse of funds, financial exploitation. They won't see it coming. As I left the office, I received a message from my father, Last chance. Sign over the money before we ruin you. I typed back, See you soon. The fight was no longer just about money. It was about dignity, truth, and finally breaking free from their control. The court date arrived sooner than I expected. Walking into the marble-floored courtroom, I felt the weight of all the humiliation I had endured since childhood. My parents sat across the aisle, looking stiff in their suits, and Lily was in her designer dress, looking smug. When the judge asked for opening statements, Mr. Thompson stood up. He didn't start with the settlement but with their long-standing financial exploitation. He showed all the evidence on the screen behind him. There were gasps in the courtroom, and even the judge raised an eyebrow. My mother's face turned pale, and my father's smirk disappeared. When it was their turn, their lawyer tried to make excuses, talking about family contributions and informal agreements. But the documents we presented shredded every word. Then, Mr. Thompson dropped the bombshell, the $120,000 hidden account. I explained how Mark had saved it, knowing that my family would try to take everything from me. My voice shook, but I was determined. I didn't just lose my husband. I lost the one person who protected me from you. But he left me the strength and the proof to end this now. The judge leaned forward and said, Based on the evidence, the court sees clear financial abuse and exploitation. This case isn't about entitlement. It's about manipulation. Their lawyer tried to protest, but the gavel struck, and the case was dismissed. But I wasn't done. On the courthouse steps, I saw the reporters. I pulled out a folder with a press statement I had prepared. I gave copies to 2 reporters before my mother even reached the bottom step. The next day, the news broke. My family's greedy and manipulative behavior was exposed to the world. My phone was bombarded with messages from friends, neighbors, and old co-workers. They were shocked and said they had never known the truth. Lily called me, her voice full of venom. You've ruined us, Joyce. No one wants to work with me now. Our friends won't even answer our calls. I calmly said, You did this to yourselves. I just stopped cleaning up your mess. The fallout was swift. My parents' friends avoided them like the plague. Lily's fashion contracts were cancelled one by one. Meanwhile, I started using the insurance settlement and Mark's hidden savings to invest in real estate, tech startups, and medical research in Mark's honor. Within months, my investments started to pay off. I received an invitation from a university dean to speak at a finance and resilience seminar. When I walked onto the stage, hundreds of people looked at me with respect. I realized that revenge wasn't about destroying them. It was about becoming strong and untouchable. Back home, I found an envelope from my parents. They wrote, Please, let's talk. We've lost everything. We can't survive without you. And that's how I ended up here, at this cafe, facing them. I stirred my coffee slowly and placed a folder on the table. Here's what I can give you. Not money, not another sacrifice, but the truth. I showed them the deeds and titles of all the assets I had purchased. You're no longer my responsibility. You made that choice when you said my husband's death didn't matter. Their eyes filled with tears, but I felt no cruelty, only clarity. I stood up, slid my chair back, and walked towards the door. I paused, looked back, and said, "You taught me what family shouldn't be. For that, I'll always remember you. But my life belongs to me now." As I stepped outside, the air felt lighter. I could hear Ethan's laughter in my mind. It wasn't revenge that was fueling me anymore. It was peace, and this peace would be permanent.